If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of The Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in today's session I've got something really special for you because it's something that all of you will have felt at some point in your property journey, and that is the fear of failure and also the day that you want to give up. So before we do that, I want to say a quick hello to all new subscribers, all new listeners, and more importantly, for all the ones that are also coming back for this, what I would consider golden content. Hopefully, and some of the feedback that I'm actually getting is that you really like the rawness, like the fact that it's a one-take edit, that I'm not holding back on any of the content. And I just want to say thank you for that. We're spreading to multiple countries across the world, and it really is coming across as a great podcast. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you. Now, let's get moving on. Do you ever have that day where things just go wrong? Everything goes wrong. That day you wish you just stayed in bed. We all have them. And this could be a day where a deal falls through. It could be a day that the vendor changes their mind. It could be a day that the solicitor is making your job even more difficult by asking stupid questions, or not responding back to some inquiries, or a day that a tenant is refusing to pay rent, or they've lost their job. It could be a day that the builder is winding you up, that the builder's saying that they can't do this, they can't do that, the other. It could be a day that you've got members of staff that have called in sick. Now, one thing I want to say to you is that, guys, unfortunately, this is the nature of the beast. We will have days like this, and I'll be honest, I have multiple days in a month, I have multiple days like this, and it is a mental battle. So what do I do to get myself through these mental battles? Because let's face it, you go on social media, it seems like that everyone has the best day of their life every day of the week. Would you agree? Because you walk in and say, oh, someone's done this deal, oh, this has happened, oh, I've done that, and I've done this, and I thought, okay, great. The social media world is a rosy place. No one really tells you what is really going on behind the scenes. They haven't told you that this has happened and that's happened, and the builder's been ripped off. And what's prompted me to do this podcast, and it's not a negative podcast, it's just highlighting the fact that not everything is rosy. I got a call from someone yesterday saying, Arsh, I took a project on for 500,000. I bought it for £500,000. I was anticipating on spending approximately £200,000 on it, and it being worth circa £1 million. So they're going to make a decent amount of profit on it. I said, okay, on the face of it, looks great. He goes, Arsh, but I just need to let you know, this project has been almost like the project from hell. I said, okay, why don't we talk about it? And so we started to talk the fact that he bought the project, which was fine. His business was failing in the background, and that some of the other partners were putting pressure on them to sell the business before it went kaput. As a result of that, that started to put pressure on the transaction, and then that's where it started to all go downhill. He then started having external people, put pressure on him, say, don't do this project. Why would you want to do this project? Then builders started running off with money, and then builders not doing what they were contractually bound to do. So that project that he should have really wrapped up between £700,000 to £800,000 actually owes him the best part of £1 million now. He spent well in excess of what he was expecting to, but more importantly, the property is now in negative equity. Now, you think you had a bad day. Think about that project. How do you think that guy feels? So I sat down with him, and I said, you know what, there are possibly options. I asked him, I said, what are you going to do? And the one thing he said, he goes, Arsh, I'm going to sell the project. I'm going to sell it for 800,000 as almost like a quick sell, fire sell. I'm just going to get out of it. I'm going to make a loss. And I think the property is blighted. I think the project is almost unlucky, and I just want to get away from it. And I said, well, I think we're acting irrationally here. And I said to him, we've got to take into consideration, you've done all this hard work and now you're falling at the final hurdle. So he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, why don't you just refinance that property? I'll go, are you desperate for the money? He goes, no, as long as I get a large majority of it back, I can leave the rest in. I said, so why aren't you not refinancing it? And instead of now playing the short term, now go and play the long term game. He goes, okay. And I said, well, what would the property rent for if you were to refinance it? And he goes, between £2,500 to £3,000 per month, which is equivalent to like 36,000 a year. And I said, well, I did some brief calculations. I said, well, on a mortgage, basically, if you were to refinance it based on approximately 75% lending, you could potentially get a mortgage that would approximately be circa between £1,500 to £2,000, which means that, okay, it's not the best return on investment. However, you've now got an asset which will still have equity in, it's still producing your cash flow, and more importantly, you're not losing £200,000 by doing a quick fire sell. He goes, I had considered that, but I've got all these people telling me to sell it, get rid of it because it's a bad property or the property is a bad omen on us. I said, okay, you've had some bad experiences, but that doesn't mean that you throw everything, you know, because you've had a bad day in the office, it doesn't mean that you put your business into liquidation, which in essence is what he's trying to do. He's losing money by actually doing it, by acting irrationally. I said, start thinking about this with your head, not your heart. At the moment, his heart is controlling it. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because when we have bad days, we make bad decisions. And I'm always one for this. You know, if I'm honest, and I'll be completely frank with you guys, that when we have a bad day in the office, sometimes we take this bad negative energy home with us as well. And, you know, it's unfortunately our loved ones that gets it, because it's just like, I'm not as a nicer person as I could be, shall I say? And sometimes I just go quiet and say, you know what, Shireen, I just need a bit of time just to kind of mull over what's gone on. I've kind of learned how to deal with that. So if you are one of these people as well, one thing I'd suggest to you is that when you leave the office, don't go straight home. Literally go and spend a bit of time and take some time out for yourself. So whether this be go to the gym, unfortunately we can't do that because we're in lockdown, you can go for a walk, take a nice long walk and clear the air before you go home. You don't go home in the same mindset as you were in the office. I know that's easier said than done, but believe me, if you get yourself into that frame, when you get home, you've actually reset, and instead of being Mr. Ilahi, property entrepreneur, you're now back to husband and dad. So I have real battles. You've got to imagine that every day I have sources that bring me properties, and as a result of the sources bringing me properties, we have issues with them not being able to control the seller. We have issues with buyers having issues with mortgages. We have issues with solicitors. We have issues with mortgage brokers. We have issues with people not doing what they were meant to do. And this is all part and parcel. So I do have to sometimes, and I speak to my assistant about this pretty much daily. And I said, there's got to be an easy way. And she goes, Arsh, just remember, it's a numbers game. Every 10 transactions, 8 are going to go through, 2 are going to fall through. So 80% success, 20% fall through rate. And unfortunately, we never really think about the 80% success. The things that bother us more is the 20% failure. And this is my point to you listening to this podcast. We have to release the 20% and we have to focus on the 80%. Now, going back to this guy with this project, think about all the good things he's done. He's managed to acquire a property which is worth now £1 million. Okay, the project hasn't gone according to plan, but on the plus side, he still owns that property. He's not in a position where he needs to sell the property. He's just got other people on the back end that are nagging him saying that this is a bad omen, get rid of it, let's try and do something else. And he can still get his money out. He can still do other things with his money. But I wouldn't suggest throwing it all down the pan and losing £200,000, which is equivalent to 20% of the profits if you look at it in that, or in essence, it's 20% of cash, which is £200,000, which depending on where you invest, that is equivalent to, a couple of properties. If you're going up towards Liverpool, you could actually buy 2 terrace properties for that kind of money. So you're throwing away that money, because once you've sold it and someone's bought it, you've got no recall on that house whatsoever. So I've said to him, just think logically with it. Think with your head, not with your heart. Your heart's telling you that this is a bad omen. Your head's saying that, you know what, how hard is it going to be to try and recoup or make £200,000? That's not the kind of money that grows on trees. Yes, a £10,000 loss, £20,000 loss, etc. You can make that back within a year. A £200,000 loss, it will take you a little bit longer to make that. And more important, that will probably scar you and eat away at you a lot longer. And that will probably also knock your confidence a bit. So you have to think about this logically. The one thing I will say to you, and one of the sayings that I really love, is that tough times do not last. Tough people do. And that is something that you always have to have in the back of your mind. Yes, you're going through a bit of pain right now, but if we can see a way through the pain, there's no reason why we can't get you out onto the other side. And in particular, with this property, I aim to get him on a refinance and he'll own an asset and also cash flowing. So guys, hopefully these are just some little nuggets that is going to give you a bit of insight. Because I know everyone will have a bad day. At some point, it can't always be rosy. It never is, and it never will be. Whether this be in a professional, whether this be in a professional outfit, whether it be in a personal circumstance, there will be times where you go through some rough times. And I want you just to reflect on the good and not focus so much on the bad. And if we focus on the good, the solution to resolve the bad will come through naturally. So hopefully that's something that's really going to give you a bit rejuvenate. Is that a word? Yeah, it is a word. So to just pretty much bring you back up to speed. If you've got any questions about this, or if you want to actually reach out like this guy did, and he says, Arsh, I've got this problem, what should we do? Because he was going to lose money. He was happy to lose money on this project. And I said, no. We're not doing that. We're going to carry on, and we're going to find a way through it. If you've got a problem and you need it solving, let's call it Ask Arsh. Why don't you literally email me? Email my assistant, admin@arshilahi.com. Please, on the email, put your name, put your phone number, so I can pick up the phone to you and say, okay, tell me what's going on. And let's book some time out. I'm always open to having a conversation with people. Always happy to help as and where I can and where possible. So guys, hopefully you really enjoyed that podcast. As always, if you want some more free content, you can connect with me on social media. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Clubhouse. And you can also check me out on YouTube. So I've got a channel on YouTube which has got over 200 odd videos, which we cover all kinds of strategies. And you can see some of the properties that I've taken on, what I've done with them, and how I've turned them around. And they're all documented all on YouTube, finding me under the handle of Arsh Ilahi. Finally, as always, have you downloaded the Property Investor app? We've hit a massive milestone of over 25,000 property investors who have all downloaded the app and using the app daily. Now, if you haven't already done so, please download the app. You can go to our website, which is propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, you can literally go to the App Store, type in Property Investor. We've done massive updates. We've done massive change on the app. So if you've got a deal, you can now upload your property directly onto the app. And so we can have it up on the app within the space of minutes. We have to still do a bit of quality control and check that the deal still works, so we don't just put anything and everything up there. And that's to help all parties. But more importantly, it's a phenomenal feature and it's really working well. We've uploaded a lot more categories, so you can see new categories like HMOs, rent to rent, lease options, service accommodation, commercial to residential. We're even possibly branching out into international properties. So we've got massive goals for 2021. I can only do that if I'm in the right mindset. Yes, I'll have bad days, but equally, as I've said, I've got to reflect and make sure that my mind stays on the good days. So guys, as always, I appreciate we're in a tough time. We can't really go out and do what we'd normally do, but we have to still keep ourselves positive. So on that note, guys, as always, if you are struggling, please feel free to reach out by emailing admin@arshilahi.com. And as always, I wish you all to be safe, well and happy. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action, so act now! Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.